How to use your calculator in numerical reasoning tests. This slideshow contains a lot of tips, shortcuts and tricks for effective use of both the basic and scientific calculator. At the end of each section, you will find important numerical examples accompanied by demonstrations of calculator use. Here are some quick facts about numerical tests. Many numerical reasoning tests require the use of a calculator. You should prepare yourself for two possible situations. When you are asked to bring your own calculator, you should bring a scientific calculator. This is a better choice as it helps save time when required to perform lengthy calculations. When you are provided with a calculator, be prepared to use a basic one. We will review how to optimize the use of both types of calculators. Let's begin with the basic calculator. Order of typing. Basic calculators don't have the brackets or indices or powers functions. The calculation order is only affected by the typing order. For example, X Motors had 3 types of cars in 2001. In 2004, one more type was added to the collection. In 2005, the number of cars in the collection multiplied by 8. Question: how would you calculate the number of cars at the end of 2005 using a basic calculator? When using a basic calculator, which doesn't have the brackets button, you have to pay attention to your typing order. Typing 3 plus 1 times 8 will yield, in this case, a correct answer. But if you thought of typing 8 times 3 plus 1, the basic calculator would calculate 8 times 3 and then add 1, giving an incorrect answer of 25. Consequently, when using a basic calculator, it is recommended to take a moment to really understand the question before automatically typing in the numbers in order to avoid miscalculations. The decimal point. There is a neat little trick to save time when using the decimal point for numbers smaller than 1. For example, when typing the number 0.05. Instead of typing 0.05, you can save a second or two by omitting the first 0 and simply typing 0.05. Whilst this seems trivial, it will save precious seconds when dealing with a question that requires the use of decimal calculations. Square root and powers. Some calculators require you to press the square root button before you type the number you wish to square root, whereas others require the opposite. Test out your calculator before you begin your test to avoid pressing it incorrectly. Here is a nice shortcut to powers. If you press the X multiplication sign after a number and then the equal sign, you will get the result of the second power of that number, e.g. 12 times equals 144. Percentages. By using the percentage button, you can quickly add or subtract a percentage of a number from that number. For example, a share price was £1.20 at the end of 2011. By the end of 2012, it increased by 15%. Question: what was the share price at the end of 2012? Type 1.2 followed by plus, then 15 followed by the percentage button to arrive at the correct answer of £1.38. Note that this button can also be used with multiplication. Let's move on to discuss the scientific calculator. Brackets. Calculators usually follow the rule of BIDMAS. This stands for brackets, indices, division and multiplication, addition and subtraction. Therefore, the calculator will work out brackets first. Of course, you may also use double brackets to ensure that nothing is calculated in the wrong order. For example, in 2008, 400 auction contracts were offered for £22,200 each. In 2009, the contract value increased by 7%, and there was a 25% decrease in the number of offered contracts. Question: how much more money than Buildingo did Rhodes make? To answer this question shortly, you can simply calculate £22,200 multiplied by 107%, which is typed 1.07, multiplied by 300 auction contracts, which are 75% of 400 original contracts, multiplied by the difference between building and roads, 0.12 minus 0.09, this calculation equals 213,786. Less calculator operations, more time for subsequent questions. Indices. First, press the base value. Then, if the power value is 2, press the x square button. If the power value is other than 2, press the y to the power of x button, or x with an empty box in the top right corner button, according to your calculator, and then the power value. For example, Dan earns £145 on his first day at work. Each day his salary is multiplied by 145. How much money does Dan have after 3 days? Let's use the calculator. Typing in 145 followed by x with an empty box in the corner button, and then 3, and then equals, will yield the answer of £3,048,625. Standard or decimal answers. Sometimes calculators will present answers in a standard form, that is, as a fraction, while your numerical reasoning test will ask for their decimal form. Once you've worked out your answer and it has been presented as a fraction, all you have to do is press the S to D button for converting fractions to decimals. For example, converting 3/5 to 0.6. ANS button. Using the ANS button will give the answer that was received in the previous calculation. Usually, once you press the equal sign and receive the result of a calculation, you are able to continue on using that result in a subsequent calculation. However, the ANS button is very useful if you need to retrieve your previous result after you have reset your calculator. For example, calculating 1,750 times 2.64 and then multiplying the product by 18. A general example. Question. Approximately what is the percentage growth in final energy consumption for the domestic sector in million tons of oil equivalent? Answer. The amounts of oil equivalent used by the domestic sector in each year are: in 2001, 213.6 times 0.29 equals 61.94 million tons. In 2011, 237.7 times 0.31 equals 73.69 million tons. Calculating the percentage growth rate, open brackets, 73.69 divided by 61.94 close brackets minus 1 equals 0.18957 equals 18.96%. Using the calculator's tips we have just learned, we can solve this question easily. Type open brackets 237.7 times 0.31 close brackets divided by open brackets 213.6 times 0.29 close brackets minus 1 equals, to arrive at 0.18957 and then multiply by 100. So, before your test date, make sure you take the time to get familiarized with your calculator and practice some of the tips and tricks you have learned here. Omit the 0 when typing decimals. Use the percentage button to calculate percentages. Use x and equals to calculate the second power, and so on. Thank you and good luck.